thing about wind energy, among other things, is that, have you noticed that power is largely controlled by corporations? Did you notice this? I'm not having an epiphany here, right? We relinquish control over energy to corporations. And so you got, my reservation, we spend a quarter of our money on energy. We spend a quarter of our money on food. And so our strategy was, we look at this and we say, well, you know, you have the 50% unemployment, people are at or below the poverty level, and we're spending half our income, you understand what I'm saying, on energy and food, and we're buying it from someone else. It's like a big hole in your economy. Y'all follow me on this? Yeah. And so, rather than try to create more jobs so that you could still keep buying like that, why don't you try to change the system and grow your own food, the local food economy, and the local energy economy, right? That's the way to do it, because it's an economic equation too, you know, and you cut your need for cash is what you do, which is all what you are conscious about. So that's what our strategy is. So we decide that, I call it the ghetto, you know, because in our community and a lot of other communities, energy is, they want to keep you under 40 kilowatts. I don't know if they got net metering here, but they want to keep you, is that right? Is it 40 here too?
There's no limit.
No?
No limit.
Okay, in Minnesota it's under 40. And you could be happy if you stay under 40. But if you go big, then you got to fight the power company, right? So what do you think we decide to do? Fight the power company, right? Because someone had to fight the power company, right? So we are sitting on, well, we decide we put up a 75 kilowatt wind turbine. And I hire all these smart guy consultants. You know, it's very frustrating, wind energy. You know, the biggest energy economy in the world, and we do not have our shit together. You know, basically, so I go, for instance, I go to the Community Wind Conference down in Iowa a few years ago. It was the most racially and gender stratified conference I was ever at in my darn life. I go down there, and there's two Indians and 5 women. There's no other people of color at the Community Wind Conference. And most of the guys at the Community Wind Conference are named like Sven and Lars, you know? Because that's where all the knowledge is in Scandinavia for wind energy, you know, of larger scale. And I give those guys total credit. I mean, Spain's like 50% wind, right? These other countries are totally rocking. The US is sitting here like a big old dinosaur. So I go to this conference and I hire these guys named Sven and Lars to help me put up this wind turbine. And they don't want to come to our reservation. It's like, this is not working out for me very well. You know, I think you guys spend a half hour with me. You know, I'm not a very patient woman. And so I wait for these guys to come get their act together, and they give me all these excuses and this and this and this, and so I fire my consultants, which most people know this about me. I do that quite often. You know, because there's so much you learn and you do the best you can, but then at a certain point, it's just not going to happen. And so I don't have this little red hen syndrome, I will do it myself, but I have something like that. You know, which is, okay, you guys kind of get your act together, we will do it ourselves. So I find this guy, his name is Tony Tibbetts, and he's one of my best friends now. This guy is an Indian guy, native guy from Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, indigenous man. And he was in the military, which is where most of our native men go if they don't go to prison, right? Highest rate of enlistment. Poor native people go to prison, right? So this guy was in the military for 26 years. I said, why were you in there after 4? You know, that'd be my question. Why were you still in there? He said, I was kind of like, how do you say, it's like a frog in a pot. I just stayed in. So he did a lot of things with our tax dollars that we didn't like. We'll go with that, right? Special forces. It made a lot of countries, blew up a lot of stuff, saved a lot of people, and killed a lot of people. And I says to him, my mom is who found this out about him. I said, so Tony, what did you do technically in the military? He says, I did a lot of things. He says, but I'm a demolitions expert. I said, really? I said, so you blow stuff up? He said, yeah. I said, do you have a degree to blow stuff up, or do you just blow stuff up? He says, no, I have an engineering degree. I have a master's in engineering from Harvard. I says, really? I says, can you just blow stuff up with that degree, or can you build something? He says, I can build something. I said, can you build that wind turbine for me? He says, yes, Winona, I can fix that wind turbine for you, and I can re-engineer it so it's perfect. And so that is how we repatriated that military knowledge from the war economy to the green economy. And I'm telling you that because we got tens of thousands of veterans who have a skill set which needs to be retooled, right? And we're getting more of them. And a lot of these guys could do something like this. So he goes, he re-engineers it. It takes us about 6 months, and in May, was it at the end of, no, it was June. Well, you know what you get to say when you put up a wind turbine? You get to say we had an erection. Isn't that great? Isn't that liberating? We had a really big erection on our reservation. Isn't that great? So we put up our wind turbine, and we're good. And now, guess who I have to fight with to get on the grid? Otter Tail Power Corporation. The same guys I just fought last year on that coal plant, and they are really mad at me. But that's okay. That's the way it goes. You can't just whine and cry around if you're a power company. He's been making millions of dollars for all these years, and they have to buy my power. They're required to under the law, but they're trying to make me do these backflips. But this time I have this military guy with me who's like, excuse me, no, we re-engineered and we're perfect. So I met with 3 federal inspectors and the power company this last week, and we're good. So in about 6 months, I'll come tell you we got it online. Might have to do a little bit more fighting, but we'll get it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of break this log jam where our community and these other rural communities can get out of the ghetto, which is small power, into mid-sized power, right? And that's really, really important because we're not gonna fight climate change with all being off-grid. You gotta be efficient. You gotta be off-grid if you're a place like this, but you also gotta produce wind for the rest of the darn country. That's how you deal with climate change. That's the truth. And either they are gonna own it over there at the big corporations, or we're gonna own it. But it takes intellectual capital and commitment to make it happen. So I'm telling you my little story, because if we could do it, my theory is if we could do it, anybody could do it. Because we're smart and we're tough. That's why how we could. But nobody would bet for us. You know what I'm saying? You look at my reservation, they're saying those guys are not going to get anything together. But we show them, And we're gonna win this one, and then we're gonna put up another one, which is what they're mad about because I'm putting up a bigger one next. That's what we're doing. And my tribal government has $3 million to put up a big wind turbine or 2 big wind turbines. I call it their federal Viagra. They cannot get it up for $3 million. But they will at some point. Well, you can make some of your own, but you gotta be smart and you gotta leverage your capital. I don't have an easy answer for you. That's what I did. Our turbine was financed by Citgo Petroleum. Do you know who that is? The Venezuelan government is who financed our turbine. Because those guys was given fuel assistance to our tribe, because they gave fuel assistance to 224 Indian tribes that was cold. And I said, that's good that you give fuel assistance and keep our Indian tribe from being cold. I said, but our Indians are gonna be cold 10 years from now and be better if you help us create the post-petroleum economy. And that's what we did, And I'm saying this because that's how we gotta do it, is you gotta keep working. So that's our little story. That's what we're working on. And so I give that to you. I encourage you in what you do, and we're gonna keep working on that. The other thing I want to say, though, is that you got a shot at doing something great. And I'm sure that you are. I'm all for the peace and love element. We'll go with that. But we also have a shot at doing great things. We have a shot at keeping them from genetically engineering the rest of the food chain. Right? That's probably worth fighting for. You know what I'm saying? And you have a shot at taking back power from these corporations. Those who control the energy grid control the power. I mean, that's the reality in this country. It's the largest energy market in the world, and we're entirely addicted to petroleum. And the problem with being an addict is that you do a lot of bad shit and hang out with dealers. And that's American energy politic, right? And these guys own the world. Corporations own the world. That's the example of BP. The fact that you can't intervene in their business. They're considered natural persons under the law. in the US. So in order to battle them, you have to take back the pieces of what the addiction is that they are feeding. So be smart and do it, you know? And one of the things that I'm asking you to help on is, how many of you have heard of this heavy haul? Any of you, a couple of you? So I'm working on this right now, which is the tar sands in Alberta, single largest industrial project in the world. You guys know about this, right? Which is where the US is getting its oil that it's not going to get from Saudi Arabia. It's by basically destroying the entire Athabascan River system in northern Alberta, and it is not covered in the media because it's not convenient and it's too far damn north, right? So they are mining the hell out of this. They're basically squeezing bitumen, or they basically squeezing something that's like tar, oil, clay into your gas tank. And they're throwing it in some pipelines. 80% of Minnesota oil is coming from there right now. So we're fighting it in Minnesota. We fought the power line, the pipeline going in there. We're fighting it in Montana and in South Dakota. And the EPA just last week is reviewing the one pipeline in South Dakota. But your part out here is the heavy haul. The mining equipment that they use to destroy the northern forest and to suck the oil out of the land is coming in on shipments from Korea, because that's where they make it. And there's 207 shipments coming in to the port of Portland. It's called the heavy haul. And each shipment is so big that they have to make special trucks. They're going to barge it up the Columbia River and take it on Highway 12. Any of you been on Highway 12 lately? Highway 12 is not a very big highway. The average shipment is 24 feet wide, 24 feet tall, 30 feet wide, and 160 feet long. It's the size of the Empire State Building it's the size of the Statue of Liberty on its side. Got that? It's like the Statue of Liberty on its side moving on a truck. They want to barge it up the Columbia River, and then they want to take it over Lolo Pass, through Idaho, into Montana, and then truck it up. So on Monday, I'm trying to meet with Pete DeFazio's staff. Why? Because that guy's head of what, transportation infrastructure or something? I don't know if you guys follow this, but he's like one guy out here who's on this, right? And I'm thinking that that's going to crush your road. You understand what I'm saying? It weighs about 180,000 tons. It's huge. These are these massive things that they are moving. Well, I know what's happened to your river, but anyway, keep an eye on it. Inform yourselves and try to get some of these local towns, like, I don't know who's on Highway 12, but if I was on Highway 12, I'd be pretty concerned about that shipment, because they said that there's only 207 of them going by, right? And the quote from BP, who's involved in it, and all those other guys is, we're hoping that after about the fourth or fifth one of these trucks goes by, they'll say, oh, there's the fourth or fifth one, and they'll forget about it, right? Oh, that's another big truck. Well, the reason I'm telling you about this is that if they want to mine for 50 years, you can be pretty sure that there's not just 207 going